Good morning. Today is December 28th, 2020. Today it is cold as hell outside. It is snowing. It is freezing in my room right now. So I decided that I'm going to have something a little more warming than my usual green tea. Green tea I tend to have generally pretty cool by comparison. This is going to be much warmer. So I have a little bit of. This is called Strong Fire Tieguanyin. It's a Taiwanese variety of Iron Goddess of Mercy tea. You can see it's pretty. Let's see if I can get the focus here. It's pretty tightly wrapped, and it's very highly oxidized in comparison to most um, most oolongs that I tend to see. They're not usually like little black nuggets like this. They're kind of wrapped leaves. Um, so this is it's going to be a little darker than your typical oolong. It's going to be a little more nutty flavored. Um, so I have my water here. It's roughly 90 degrees Celsius. You can see there. I have my gaiwan ready to go. I have my aroma cup, which I'm going to be demonstrating as well today. So let's go ahead and get started with this. I'm going to take the lid off of the gaiwan, pour the tea in. So you can see just about it's about how much the about how full the gaiwan cup is currently. So this is going to open up and fill quite a bit, but not as much as a regular oolong would. Oftentimes you will fill the cup up to about maybe here with the dry leaf, and then as it unfurls and expands, it will fill up the entire gaiwan to the point where you almost can't get the lid on anymore. So I'm going to do a rinse first, and if you've never done Gongfu brewing, the purpose of the rinse is to get the leaves a little bit wet. I usually don't fill it all the way on a rinse because I don't want to use up all my water. But I'm going to leave that on for just a couple of seconds to let the water soak in. This also kind of rinses off any lingering impurities and dirt and dust and all that stuff that may be on the leaves. Get rid of that and give that just a moment. So the rinse, of course, you don't drink; you just dump it straight into your tray here. So I'm going to let this sit for just a second longer. I'm going to take the lid now. Take a sniff of the lid, and already it's already giving off quite a bit of aroma. It's nice and very nutty, very woody, like a Taiwanese tea tends to be. So you can see the leaves haven't opened up too much yet, but they're definitely wet. Okay, so for my first pour, try to pour around the edges as much as possible. Fill up to about here. Cover. Take this and I'm gonna give that about 5 seconds. So that's been about long enough. Go ahead and pour it off. So if you're used to brewing from bags, you may be used to brewing for a longer period of time than I just did. This is what I really like about Gongfu brewing is that you can get a nice, strong brew out of very little time investment, actually. So this has come out. This is still pretty light compared to how it's going to be. This is a nice gold, nice color. Let's see the smell. Yeah, it's still nice. It's still a very powerful scent. This tea does tend to steep pretty well, pretty quickly. And now I'm going to demonstrate the aroma cup. This is something I just recently started to use. To my knowledge, this is like a Taiwanese specialty with Gongfu brewing. I don't think this is much of a thing in Chinese brewing, at least not yet. But so what you do, this is really meant for like, it's just another step to enjoy the aroma of the tea. Mostly if if you have guests, this is really good for that. So you fill up the aroma cup about 3/4 of the way full. My understanding is that it is considered not offensive, but maybe rude to fill it up all the way. The implication being that you are perhaps trying to give them more tea so they will drink it more quickly and leave more quickly. That's what I've read anyway. I don't know how that translates quite exactly, but so I'm going to take my drinking cup, my real drinking cup, I'm going to put it over top of the aroma cup. Let's see if we can get, so you can see how that sits in there. I will then take my hands like this underneath, my thumb on top, flip it. Kind of hard to do with one hand, but and then lift the cup, pour the tea in, and then turn this over and take a smell. The idea being that the tea being in here and then pouring out and then the upside down motion keeps the tea infused scented air trapped inside of the cup. And then when you flip it over, take a quick sniff, you are getting the full radius of the tea's flavor, the tea's scent. All that is being delivered directly into your nostrils in one big concentrated blast. I can't say honestly that it makes all that big of a difference. It's just something kind of fun. I do enjoy doing it, but it is not at all necessary to enjoying Gongfu tea. So you can see here, this is a pretty dark cup, but the bottom of it's white, and you can kind of get a pretty good picture of the color. It's just a little bit green. So I'm going to take a drink of this. So yeah, it's still quite nutty. It's not there yet. It's going to have to open up a little more. The second brew is going to be a little more powerful. So I'm about to commit a sin here. I'm going to dump this so that I can move on to the second brew, and so that you can see the full range of color that the second brew will give us. So we're going to take a look inside the leaves now. They've begun to open up a little bit more. They're not quite as tight. So we're just about in where we want to be. I'm going to give this a slightly longer brew. This is going to be 10 seconds. So fill to near the top. Counting down now. About pretty quick 10 seconds. Pull this back and pour. You can see already this is quite a bit more richly colored than the first brew was. It's about twice as long of a brew, and about it's already pretty wet by this point. So I'm gonna do the aroma cup thing again. Okay, flip, grab, turn, pull, and sniff. Yeah, much stronger that time. I think the color is not quite as obvious in the cup as it was. It's definitely darker. I think the blue of the cup is kind of giving a slightly misleading green to it, actually, because the liquid itself is pretty golden. It's a beautiful orange gold. And this one does darken quite a bit on the third and fourth brew especially. So take a drink. It's much more rich, much more nutty, much more woody. If you're used to your Chinese Tieguanyins, they are much more flowery. They tend to be like jasmine infused. You get a lot of that. This is a very different beast. This is much darker, much richer, much more robust of a drink. Like it is not a delicate oolong. So it's a little unusual in that respect. But in my experience, Taiwanese oolongs tend to be pretty unusual compared to Chinese oolongs. There is a lot of there are a lot of terms that I can't properly explain, like terroir, and which is, as I understand it, is sort of a I always understood it as being like the actual geological mineral composition of the earth in which the tea grew. But I've heard people use it in such a way to suggest like the entire. It is the infusion into the tea of the entire process of having made the tea from mineral to processing to uh, just the the environment that it's kept in, like the whole journey of the individual leaf um, from bud to cup basically is terroir. And I think that maybe is a little too non-specific about, because there's a lot of lies that can be told in between where the tea came from and when it arrives on your table. But one thing you can't really lie about is the flavor. It's going to taste the way it's going to taste. If you're preparing it right, it's going to taste. You're going to get a good profile of how the tea really is. So I think I would not use that term as loosely as some people have used it, I guess. But then again, I'm not a professional tea sommelier or anything like that, as much as I would like to be. But yeah, so I'm gonna pour this again. If you like your woodier teas, this one I highly recommend. It's quite good. Again, it's a strong fire Tieguanyin. I got this from Happy Lucky's Tea House in Fort Collins, Colorado, where I get most of my teas. Unfortunately, I don't have any more details like about specifically where this came from or which farm it perhaps was grown on, or the conditions under which it was grown. I don't have access to any of that, but I can tell you that it did come from Taiwan, and that it's quite good. I highly recommend giving it a try sometime if you want something a little more robust than your average oolong or green. So anyway, thank you for watching. I will post another one of these eventually. I know it's been a few months since my last one. When I find a new tea that I want to talk about, I will post something and tell you all about it. So thank you.